Hey guys, welcome back to the Doc's Lodge. Sorry it's been a while since my last video. Between church and family and stuff, there's just been a lot going on, so I haven't been able to be as active, but I'm glad to finally be able to work on something for you right now. So for today's video, I wanted to do a guitar lesson, the first one on this channel. And this one is specifically designed to get you out of first position and into the more adventurous parts of the neck. If you're just starting out, or you haven't been playing long, or you just haven't done much outside of this position, it can be pretty intimidating to kind of look at the rest of the neck and even fathom playing there, because we all know and love first position. We got all our basic cowboy chords right there. But there's so much that you can do past that point over there, and it's not that hard to do once you know where to start. There's so much out here that can really take your playing to the next level. Particularly playing in a band setting, it's not always desirable to be just playing in this kind of lower section because you're competing with other instruments. But if you take your chords and voice them higher up on the neck, you can cut through the mix and you stay out of the sonic territory of some of the other instruments, like the acoustic guitar, the keyboards, synths, and stuff like that. And so this technique is something that I learned years ago, and I've been applying it to this day. And I didn't invent it by any means, but I kind of put a name to it, and I call it the 3-chord hack. So basically, you can take 3 chords. Just knowing 3 chords, you can play any chord progression in any key. And that's the 1, 4, and 5 chords. Only using those 3 chords, you can play the entirety of any song, provided all the chords stay in the same key. Which, fortunately for us, about probably 90–95% of all praise and worship songs stay in the same key. So you're in luck. Chances are the next worship set that you have to play for is all in the same key. So before we go any further, I'm using my trusty LTD T-style guitar, and I've got my Line 6 Helix. So those are the sounds that you are going to be hearing today. And before we do anything else, let's just pick our 3 chords that we're going to use. So for our 1 chord, we've got A. This is the voicing that we'll use. And that's taken from the common F shape that we use over here. But just take it up to the 7th fret. You got your A chord. And then for D, doing that, you can bar that, kind of like doing an A chord over here. And then for E, just like that. So to make this video simpler, those are the only chord voicings that we're going to be using for the whole video. You could take other voicings of these same 3 chords, but we're just going to keep it simple and just use those voicings by themselves. Alright, so how does this work? So first we need to determine how many chords are there in a key. There's a total of 7 chords in one key. And these 3 chords can cover all 7 of those. So how does all this work? Well, it's really important to first define what a chord actually is. A chord, at its core, no pun intended, is made up of 3 notes, just 3 notes. We got a root, a third, and a fifth. And like for the chord of A major, you got A, C sharp, and E. Even for those big bar chords, we all know those. We're playing all 6 strings, but it's still just 3 notes. You just happen to have 3 roots, 1 third, and 2 fifths, but still just 3 notes. And so the key to understanding this concept is this. If you have one chord made up of 3 notes, and this chord shares 2 notes in common with another chord, then that means that the original chord can also substitute for that second chord. So let's get deeper into this so we can further understand it in case you're getting confused. So we're going to start with our 1 chord, A, C sharp, E. So now we got to find another chord in this key that shares 2 out of the 3 notes. And we have one, which is F sharp minor. In that chord we've got F sharp, A, and C sharp. And because those two chords share two notes in common, this A can function as an A as a 1 chord, or it can also function as an F sharp minor chord, which sounds like this with the bass in there. But the A chord doesn't even have an F sharp in it. How can it substitute for the F sharp minor chord? Well, keep in mind that you're going to have the bass guitar covering the low F sharp, and you're most likely going to have it with the keyboards and with the acoustic guitar. So for the electric player, it's not really essential to be playing all the roots and stuff. You just need to play stuff that complements everything else. And so, if you already have that F sharp in the chord, that means you're now covering the 3rd with the A and the 5th with the C sharp. And then what about the added note that you get? That gives you a minor 7th, which just gives you a little bit more color. Sounds a little bit more interesting than just the plain F sharp minor chord. So in order to play the bass, I've got to jump back to first position, ironically. But here's F sharp minor, just plain. And now with the minor 7th above. See, that sounds just a little bit more interesting, a little bit more colorful than the plain F sharp minor. So every time you see an F sharp minor in your chart, you can play an A in place of that. Now this concept is the same thing for the 4 and the 5 chords. So let's take our 4 chord. Our 4 chord is D, F sharp, A. Now, what's the chord that shares 2 out of the 3 notes with this one? Well, let's see. We've got the 2 chord. The 2 chord is B minor, or we call it a minor 2 chord. The 2 chord is B minor. So that has B, D, F sharp. And again, because these have 2 notes in common, that D chord can function both as the 4 chord and as the 2 chord. And it's the same thing. You've got the other instruments covering the bass, and you get an added minor 7th with this new chord. So here's what this sounds like. So here is B minor, just plain. Now with the 7th. Again, has a little bit more color to it. And then we have our 5 chord. And our 5 chord is E. And we got to find what chords have 2 out of the 3 notes in common with that. Well, here you have the C sharp minor. Again, that shares 2 out of the 3 notes, E and G sharp. And so then you can use your E major in place of C sharp. Now the 3 chord isn't near as common as the chords that we've discussed up to this point. It's pretty rare to find a 3 chord in worship songs, but they are there. I can think of a few recent songs like Behold the Lamb from Passion, Is He Worthy from Andrew Peterson and Chris Tomlin. They both use 3 chords in there that are fairly prominent. And it's not as strong of a sound as some of the other chords, but it kind of has a unique flavor whenever you hear it. But the E chord can also function as the 3 chord, or rather the 5 chord can function as the 3 chord. There's also the 7 chord, not 7th chord, 7 chord, which is the G sharp diminished. Now, I have never seen a 7 chord in a worship song. If you have, let me know in the comments below. But all this is, it just sounds like a 5-7 or an E7 in the key of A, just without a root. If you add a root on there, it just sounds like a 5-7 wanting to go to 1. So I wouldn't worry about the 7 chord. But you've got the 5 and the 3 chord covered by using E, or just 5. So I'm going to play you some examples of a chord progression that I came up with, which is going to demonstrate me using these chord substitutions to play over each of these chords. So you'll see the original chords, what they actually are, and then you'll also be able to see what I'm playing over each of them. So as you can see, this fits in quite nice with everything that's going on. You got the bass handling the low end, you got the acoustic guitar and keyboards with the low mids and everything. There's a synth pad in there as well. And so the electric guitar can rest quite nicely with that, just kind of doing that arpeggio type stuff. Kind of like what you heard before. And just kind of playing like that can really add a whole lot of dimension to the sound. Just stuff like that. And you can also do the same thing if you're playing like a more high energy section, you want to throw on some dirt. So stuff like this. See, it works quite well. You're still out of the way of everything, and it cuts through. It's just in the right register, and we're going to hear me do the same chord progression, but with more of a gritty type sound. The band's kind of playing a little harder, and you'll see how this fits in quite nicely with that. So yeah, that fits in really good. It just gives it a little bit of oomph to the sound. Between all that, the bass, the acoustic, you've got the keyboards in there, and now you've got a really high synthesizer, kind of above where the guitar is. And so this sits right in the middle of that and just really rounds everything out. It adds that texture to it, and it's not so much holding down the harmony as much as kind of giving an extra bit of dimension to the sound. Now keep in mind that you are not limited to doing these shapes. It's like you could just take those three chords, 1, 4, and 5, but you can switch up the voicings. Like if I wanted to do something like this. Slide up here. Something like that just kind of makes it sound a little bit more interesting. You're still using the same three chords, but changing up the voicing. So that'll make what you're doing there with those initial three chords, that'll help you take that to the next level. And if you're just sticking to those three original chord voicings, you can just kind of play within the box. Kind of do like this. For the 1 chord. The 4 chord here. You're still using those same basic shapes, but you're just kind of playing with the surrounding notes. Just stuff like that will help make it more interesting. You can also do that with the dirty sound as well. But that'll kind of give you an idea of some more things that you can do. But just have fun. Experiment with different voicings. Go up and down the neck and just see what works well. I mean, the best way that you learn things is just trying things. You'll come across things that are like, ugh, I'll never use that again. But then you'll also come across stuff like, ooh, that was cool. And like other things you can do is like in place of a root third fifth type chord is do like a sus2. It's a really nice sound. So yeah, just have fun with that. Alright, well I hope this lesson helped you be just a little bit more bold in getting out of first position and exploring the more adventurous parts of the guitar neck. Feel free to go back and go over those examples that I gave you earlier. I'll put a timestamp in the description below so you can find that easily. But you can go back and practice working on those chords, getting used to playing those substitutions where they go. And with a little bit of practice, this stuff will be second nature and you won't even need to think about it anymore. I can do this stuff in my sleep now, and I'm sure you will be able to as well, just with a little bit of practice. I plan to do more videos like this and kind of exploring more possibilities on the guitar neck, but hopefully you'll have a good start with this video and you'll get just a few more tricks in your bag for this coming Sunday. Don't forget to hit subscribe below and give a thumbs up. And we'll see you back here next time on the Docs Lodge. Lord bless.